For our milk can, we are going to use just one PBR Material Texture Set. I've chosen Damaged Metal Surface PBR 0492 from Textures.com. Unwrapping can be somewhat of an art form, and it can take some experimenting to achieve a satisfactory end result. Usually you want to first and utmost use as much of the UV space as possible. Second, you want the UV surface allocated according to the size of the faces in your model, what is known as normalizing or averaging island scale. Third, you usually want to minimize the number of seams, places where the mesh will be separated, so that the texture will flow smoothly over the surface of your model. Fourth, you usually do not want to overlap one surface on top of another. However, all these rules are made to be broken. After experimenting, I found that using the built-in UV Unwrap seemed best for the milk can mesh. All Blender primitives come already UV unwrapped, and the milk can was derived from the cylinder primitive. Because the handles are relatively small meshes, I elected to not add seams and simply unwrap them with Smart UV Project. I then used UV Packmaster to lock the milk can mesh as a single unit, normalized all of the islands, and packed the handles around the milk can mesh. Here goes. Open Blender and the milkcan06.blend file if it is not already open. First, let's delete the bottom of the milk can mesh, as it will not be seen when the milk can is sitting on the ground. In object mode, keyboard shortcut the F1 key if you have added my custom keyboard shortcuts. Select the milk can. Switch to edit mode. Keyboard shortcut the F2 key if you have added my custom keyboard shortcuts. And switch to face selection mode. Keyboard shortcut the 3 key. Select the bottom face of the milk can and delete. Keyboard shortcut the X key, then the F key. Switch to the UV editing workspace, and in the 3D editor window, select the faces of the milk can. Keyboard shortcut the A key. In the UV editing window, notice that the sides are already unwrapped as one island. Open the UV editing window's Properties panel and select the UV Packmaster tab. With all of the faces selected in the UV editing window, check Lock Groups. Open the chevron and select Assign Islands to Lock Group. You can increase the text size in the preference window by increasing the font size UV overlay. I increased mine from 20 to 50. In the 3D editor window, switch from edit mode to object mode and select the top handle mesh. Switch back to edit mode and select all of the faces. Keyboard shortcut the A key. With the mouse cursor hovered over the 3D editor window, unwrap. Keyboard shortcut the U key, then select UV Smart Project. Set the island margin to 0.01 and select OK. Two of the islands are horizontal, and we could pack the islands tighter if they were rotated. Toggle on UV Sync selection. Select the horizontal islands and rotate 90 degrees. Keyboard shortcut the R key, then enter 90. In the 3D Editor window, switch from Edit Mode to Object Mode and select the Side Handles mesh. Switch back to Edit Mode and select all of the faces. Keyboard shortcut the A key. With the mouse cursor hovered over the 3D Editor window, Unwrap. Keyboard shortcut the U key, then select UV Smart Project. Set the island margin to 0.01 and select OK. In the 3D Editor window, switch from Edit Mode to Object Mode and select all of the meshes: milk can, side handles, and top handle. In the 3D Editor window, switch back to Edit Mode and select all of the faces. Keyboard shortcut the A key. In the UV Editing window, under the UV Packmaster tab, check Normalize Islands. Uncheck Rotation Enabled and select Pack. The handles are packed around the faces of the milk can, which take up most of the UV space. Let's create a UV map. In the 3D Editor window, select the Image menu and New. Name the new image UV Map and select OK. Save your UV map by selecting Image menu, then Save As. We can also combine our three meshes, milk can, side handles, and top handle, into one mesh. In Object Mode and in the Outline window, select the top handle mesh, then select the side handles mesh, and then the milk can mesh. Selecting the milk can mesh last will retain the name on the combined mesh. With the mouse cursor hovered over the 3D Editor window, combine the meshes. Keyboard shortcut Control plus the J key. This would be a good time to save your work. Save your Blender file as milkcan07.blend. We are now going to use the Blender add-on PBR Painter to add a PBR Material Texture Set. This set, damaged metal, contains a metallic map, so we will have to use channel packing to create the parameters map. PBR Painter is capable of channel packing the emission, roughness, ambient occlusion, and metallic maps as required by Trainz to generate a parameters map. The damaged metal PBR Material Texture Set does not contain an emissions file nor an ambient occlusions file, So to generate the parameters map, we will combine only the roughness and metallic information. We are also not going to use the height file, as most of the height information is contained in the normal file. So this leaves the albedo, metal, normal, and roughness files to be downloaded. Switch to the PBR Painter workspace and drag the bottom border of the 3D Editor window down to enlarge the 3D Editor window. In the 3D Editor window's Properties panel, with the PBR Painter tab selected, select New to add a new material. Name the material Metal. In the Properties window on the right, select Set up Material for PBR Painter. Uncheck Backup Current Material, uncheck Set Fake User, and select OK. Select the new layer icon and name the new layer Metal. Under Filled Painter, keep Filled and select OK. Select the Import Material icon. Locate and load the damaged metal surface PBR 0492 albedo, metal, normal, and roughness maps. Select Refresh Material to see the PBR Material Texture Set on your model. The damage on the milk can may be accentuated by selecting the normal map and increasing the texture normal strength by entering, say, 1.5. We are now ready to bake out our texture information. Baking combines the information in a format that can be used by Trainz. For a metallic texture, it involves 4 steps. First, we use channel packing with PBR Painter to create a channel-packed image file. For the milk can, it will contain the roughness and metallic information and will become the parameter map. I'm using map and file interchangeably here. Maps are files, so hopefully it's not too confusing. Second, we use PBR Painter to create what PBR Painter calls an exportable material. With this process, we will generate by baking 3 texture maps: base color, roughness, and normal, and a node tree to which they are attached. Third, we rename the base color and the normal maps to diffuse and normal, respectively. And we rename the channel-packed image to parameters. This satisfies Trainz' need for texture files to end in these suffixes. Fourthly, we will replace the maps in the node tree with the diffuse, parameter, and normal maps. To create the parameters map, in the Properties window on the right, select Baking. Set the resolution to 1K and the margin to 0 pixels. Check Save Textures Externally and select a location. I called my location Textures Files. Set the format to PNG. Under Channel Selection, select Manual. Check Channel Packing. Select Add Channel Packing Image and select OK. Check Pack Individual RGB Channels. Under Green, select Roughness. Under Alpha, select Metallic. Select Bake and select OK. In your Textures Files folder, you will see one file named Milk Can Channel Packed Image 1k.png. This is our parameters file. Now let's generate the exportable material. Uncheck Channel Packing. Check Create Exportable Material. Select Base Color, Roughness, and Normal. Select Bake and OK. Switch to the Shading workspace and select the material Exportable. You can now move the nodes closer together so you can zoom in on the node tree. Box select and use the keyboard shortcut the G key followed by the Y key and drag to move the nodes up and down on the Y-axis. In your Textures Files folder, you will find 3 new files. Rename Milk Can Base Color to Diffuse. Rename Milk Can Normal to Normal. And rename Milk Can Channel Packed Image to Parameters. In the node tree, replace Milk Can Base Color with the diffuse file. Replace the Milk Can Channel Packed Image file with the Parameters file. Since this file contains non-color information, change the color space to non-color. Replace the Milk Can Normal file with the Normal file. Since this file contains non-color information, change the color space to non-color. Notice in the 3D Editor window that the milk can is no longer metallic. That is because we have combined the metallic information into the parameters file. And when we replaced the roughness file with the parameters file, the metallic information is not displayed. When the textures are imported into Trainz, all will be well. Before saving your work, pack your texture files into your Blender file by selecting the File menu, then External Data, then Pack Resources. This ensures that if you move your Blender file or your texture files on your computer, the texture information will remain associated with your Blender file and therefore show on your model. Save your work. Save your Blender file as milkcan08.blend.